Okay, so let's talk about the Book of Revelation. You've got this incredible scene, right? A scroll with 7 seals that unleashes the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It's one of the most famous, most iconic scenes in all of Western literature. But what if I told you that our entire understanding of who actually opens those seals all hinges on one tiny little grammatical detail that we've kind of been glossing over for centuries?
Yeah, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to peel back the layers of translation, look past the English, and see what the original Greek text is actually telling us. And what we find might just change how you see this story forever.
All right, so our story kicks off in Revelation chapter 5. We're in the heavenly throne room and this mysterious scroll appears. It holds the future, but it's at the center of this huge cosmic problem.
And the tension here, you could cut it with a knife. A search goes out across the entire universe, in heaven and on earth and under the earth, but nobody, absolutely no one, is found who has the authority to break these seals and see what's inside. The whole cosmos is just holding its breath, waiting for a solution.
And just when it feels like all hope is lost, a figure emerges who can solve this problem. And he's the one we've all just assumed is the only person doing anything in this whole drama.
The Lamb is worthy. And this one verse, right here, is the foundation for the belief that he and only he opens all 7 of those seals. I mean, case closed, right? Well, not so fast. It all depends on what that word worthy actually means in the original language. See, the key is in the original Greek. The word they use is axios, and it doesn't really mean having the physical strength to do something. It's more like having the legal right, the authority. So the Lamb is legally authorized to get this whole process started. But that's not the same thing as saying he's the one who will personally carry out every single action. And that distinction, well, it's absolutely crucial. So let's jump over to chapter 6 and see how this plays out, because this is where the action starts and the grammatical plot really thickens. We're going to zoom way in on the very first verse of the whole seal opening sequence.
The author, John, says he saw the Lamb open a seal. Now I want you to pay very, very close attention to that phrasing, because this is the only time, the one and only time in this entire 7-seal story that the text explicitly names the Lamb as the one opening a seal. Just this once.
And here's another little clue hiding in plain sight. Most of our translations smooth this out to say he opened the first seal, but the literal Greek is more specific. It says he opened one of the seals. Now that might sound like splitting hairs, but it's a huge deal. It suggests John is reporting a single event he saw, not setting up a template for what's going to happen over and over again.
So right after the Lamb opens that one seal, it's like the narrative camera suddenly pans away from him. The spotlight shifts and a brand new, mysterious figure rides onto the scene.
And boom, here he is, the first horseman. He's on a white horse, he's got a bow, he's given a crown, and he rides out to conquer. Now this rider is the last active person John sees before the story moves on to the second seal. Just keep that in mind.
Now, a lot of people just assume this rider is a villain, some kind of antichrist figure. But the text itself tells us the word for his crown is Stephanos. This isn't a king's crown, it's a victor's wreath, the kind you'd give to a champion athlete or a conquering general. It's not automatically a symbol of evil at all. In fact, to prove the point, whenever Revelation wants to talk about a royal crown, or a fake one, it uses a totally different word, diadema. That's the word used for the crowns on the dragon and the beast. So the fact that our white rider wears a Stephanos tells us the text itself isn't trying to paint him as some kind of deceiver. Okay, so we've got our rider on the scene, and now we get to the absolute heart of this whole mystery. After the rider appears, the text moves to the opening of the second seal, and this is where the grammar gets really, really interesting. Listen to that wording again. When he opened the second seal. Just a simple pronoun. He. And that right there is the million-dollar question. Who is this he? We've always just assumed it's the Lamb, but the text never actually says his name. And here it is. This is the smoking gun. In the original Greek manuscript, there's no subject. It just says, and when he opened. The words the Lamb are actually added in by translators later on because, they assumed it must be him and wanted to make it clearer for us. But that's an interpretation, not a direct translation of the words that were actually on the page. So let's just trace the flow of the story. The Lamb acts once. Then the focus shifts completely to the rider. The very next action we read is he opened.
Now, grammatically, a pronoun like he usually refers back to the most recent subject. And in this scene, that's the rider, not the lamb.
And this isn't just a one-time quirk or a typo. The exact same grammatical pattern, a subjectless he opened, happens again for the third seal, and the fourth, and the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh. The lamb is named at the very beginning, and then he just vanishes from the action for the rest of the chapter.
So, what does all of this mean? Where does that leave us? Well, the point isn't to say for sure that the traditional view is wrong. It's to show you what the text itself actually says and what it leaves open.
So let's just recap the evidence. Fact 1, the lamb is legally authorized to kick things off. Fact 2, the text explicitly says he opens only one seal. Fact 3, for the next 6 seals, the Greek verb has no subject. So what you have is this incredible ambiguity that tradition has stepped in to solve for us by just assuming it's always the lamb, even when the text itself leaves the door wide open for another possibility.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. This whole deep dive shows how something we thought was a certainty is actually an interpretation, an assumption that was added to the text to make it read smoother. And it just makes you wonder, how many other things that we take for granted in these ancient writings aren't what the text explicitly says, but are just the traditions of translation that we've inherited? It's a great reminder to always look a little closer.